Welcome to this explainer. If you've been keeping an eye on UK politics this summer, well, you already know we've just witnessed one of the most dramatic, lightning-fast shifts in recent parliamentary history. I mean, literally, in a matter of weeks, the government at number 10 Downing Street has been completely overhauled. So today, we're going to break down this massive July 2026 cabinet reset under the newly appointed Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. We're going to dive into the official documents, look at the key personnel changes, and really figure out what this radically new roster tells us about the future direction of the country.
To really grasp the sheer magnitude of this moment, check out this quote from The Independent. They noted that the new Prime Minister has conducted a brutal purge of Starmer loyalists and made some shock appointments to key government roles. So this absolutely wasn't just some minor everyday reshuffle. It was a total structural reset of the UK government. Which begs the question, how exactly did we get here? And honestly, who is actually pulling the levers of power right now?
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. We're going to walk through 1. The 2026 leadership crisis. 2. Burnham takes number 10. 3. The July 2026 cabinet. 4. Winners and shock appointments. 5. Reshaping government priorities. And lastly, 6. Staying informed with Londoner. Let's get right to it.
Part 1. The 2026 leadership crisis. Context to the roster. You know, to truly understand this new cabinet, we first have to understand the spectacular collapse of the previous one.
The timeline here is just incredibly fast. It was a real domino effect of crisis. It started following some pretty poor local election results in May and growing dissatisfaction over policy. Things just began to fracture. On May 14th, Health Secretary Wes Streeting resigned. Less than a month later, on June 11th, Defense Secretary John Healey and Armed Forces Minister Al Carnes stepped down. And that was over a major dispute regarding defense spending. At that point, the internal pressure was just insurmountable. So on June 22nd, Keir Starmer announced his resignation. And then, less than a month after that, Andy Burnham officially became Prime Minister.
The crucial backdrop to all these cascading resignations was a seriously steep decline in public support. By November 2025, Keir Starmer's net approval rating had plummeted to negative 46%. To put that into perspective, that is a historically steep drop, largely driven by deep public frustration over the cost of living, healthcare, and infrastructure. And that plummeting approval rating, that's really the core context for the cabinet rebellion that ultimately forced the change in leadership.
Moving on to Part 2. Burnham takes number 10, the path to power. Honestly, Andy Burnham's entry into the premiership is a fascinating procedural puzzle all on its own.
So here's the catch. Because Andy Burnham was serving as the mayor of Greater Manchester, he wasn't actually a sitting member of Parliament, and you have to be an MP to become Prime Minister. So they had to orchestrate this highly unusual sequence of events. First, on May 14th, MP Josh Simons resigned his Makerfield seat specifically to open up a vacancy. Burnham then ran in the resulting by-election and won it on June 18th. Now that he was finally back in Parliament, he was eligible to challenge for the leadership. With overwhelming support from MPs, he was elected unopposed on July 17th. It was just a stunning, perfectly timed piece of political maneuvering.
All right, Part 3, the July 2026 Cabinet, the top jobs. With the keys to number 10 officially secured, Burnham wasted zero time building his team.
So, what everyone wants to know is who exactly is in Andy Burnham's new cabinet. When the official list dropped on gov.uk, it showed a massive transformation of the great offices of state. Let's take a look at the heavy hitters.
Now, what's really interesting here is the strategic placement of these key figures. Andy Burnham is Prime Minister, obviously, but John Healey gets elevated to Chancellor of the Exchequer. And Miliband takes over as Foreign Secretary, and Yvette Cooper steps in as Health and Social Care Secretary. These aren't newcomers. These are highly experienced political veterans being placed right at the absolute nerve center of this new government.
Which brings us to Part 4, Winners and Shock Appointments, Reshuffling the Deck. Because beyond those top 4, Burnham made some very calculated and frankly surprising moves to consolidate his administration.
The rest of the roster is packed with surprises. Louise Haigh has been handed immense cross-government power as First Secretary of State and Cabinet Office Minister. Angela Rayner takes over housing. And get this, Wes Streeting, whose resignation back in May helped spark this entire crisis in the first place, he returns to the cabinet in the incredibly powerful role of Defense Secretary. Dan Jarvis steps in as Security Minister, and Dame Diana Johnson joins the Department of Health. It's a very deliberate mix of rewarding new loyalists while bringing back influential, established figures.
And this brilliantly illustrates the political gamesmanship at play here. Remember why the previous government fractured.
John Healey resigned as Defense Secretary specifically because the Treasury refused to fund his defense investment plan. Well, in the new administration, Burnham has literally made John Healey the Chancellor of the Exchequer, so Healey is now the guy controlling the Treasury's purse strings. It's a massive reversal of fortunes, completely resolving the exact dispute that brought the last cabinet down. You really can't write this stuff.
Next up, Part 5, Reshaping Government Priorities, New Directions. In politics, personnel is policy, right? And these specific appointments signal some major shifts for the UK.
Based on reporting from The Independent, Ed Miliband's new mandate at the Foreign Office is expected to include a roadmap for returning UK and international aid spending to 0.7% of GDP. Plus, Miliband has been given explicit permission to prioritize climate goals on the global stage. And on the tech front, we're seeing the creation of a brand new role. Kanishka Narayan has been appointed as the dedicated Minister for Artificial Intelligence, which bridges the Cabinet Office and the Department for Business. So what should you take away from this? Expect the UK to aggressively pursue global climate leadership and get very serious about regulating future tech.
Finally, Part 6, Staying Informed with Londoner. Look, with so many rapid-fire changes happening, knowing exactly where to get your facts is absolutely vital. In the middle of a fast-moving political crisis, you know how the rumor mill goes into absolute overdrive. That's exactly why relying on a publication with a rigorous, independent editorial policy is so critical right now. Londoner really stands out because they are strictly independent from commercial and political pressure, and they have an uncompromising commitment to verified accuracy. When you're reading about a volatile cabinet reshuffle, you need to know the difference between a confirmed appointment and a developing rumor. Londoner makes that distinction crystal clear, and they update their reporting completely transparently the second official documents are released.
We've honestly only scratched the surface here today. There are dozens of new junior ministers, whips, and undersecretaries appointed in this reset. So I highly recommend you head over to londoner.news/ministerial appointments July 2026 to read the massive, complete list of new government roles. And definitely make sure you bookmark londoner.news as your daily go-to for verified updates on how this brand new government operates going forward.
I want to leave you with this final thought. The pieces are all on the board. The Treasury, the Foreign Office, Defense, Health, they are all under new, powerful leadership. But the deep, structural challenges of the country, those remain. So with a radically transformed cabinet and bold new priorities, can Andy Burnham's government unite the country? Or will it just face the exact same internal and public fractures as the last one? Time will tell, and we'll definitely be watching closely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.